Hey guys, and welcome back to Wiles HVAC and stuff. Today we're making wine, and we're gonna make some dang good wine. This particular wine is what we call Wiles Black Magic. We've made a lot of different wines over the past couple of years. I've actually only been making wine myself for maybe 3-4 years, something like that. We tried a bunch of different recipes. We've tried a bunch of different methods of how to do it. We had our first ones went horribly. The tops blew off the bottle. We had corks flying everywhere. Wine shot out like Alka-Seltzer or Mentos and Coke, something like that. It was bad. So I'm going to tell you now that anybody can make wine, and if it doesn't work out the first time, just keep trying, because it can't get any worse than that. Because when you give out a bottle of wine to somebody and they call you 2 weeks later and say that they had 2 bottles of wine explode in their kitchen and that wine came from you, dude, that sucks. So, it can't get any worse than that. So we don't have that issue anymore. Now we use the right methods, we use the right process, additives, all that kind of crap that you got to put in it, and it makes it right. So if anybody can do this, anybody can do it at home, in their kitchen, their garage, whatever they want to do. But there's just a few things that you have to remember whenever you do it. So today I'm going to show you some of those processes. The recipe that we have for Wiles Black Magic, that is one of our own that we came up with. We actually took 3 or 4 different recipes and different methods of how it's made and combined those all together. That way we can shorten up the time it takes to make it, and the taste is kind of perfected to how my wife and I like it. We do give a couple bottles out here and there, but for the most part it's just for personal recreational use. But with the recipe that we have, or the method that we use to do it, we can actually get a 5-gallon batch of wine done in about a month, maybe a little bit more, depending on how much time I actually have to mess with it and keep everything going. To where the processes we used originally, you just took some fruit and sugar and you put it in a container and you let it go for 6 months or a year. And a year and a half later, you were bottling it and you had some wine. Now doing it this way, like I said, we've had wine that we have started and bottled in a month or less. And actually, some of the things I've seen online, there's people that actually put more attention to it and have more time to mess with it, and they can get it done in 2 or 3 weeks. And it tastes good. It's settled. There's no chemical imbalances in there where it's going to blow corks out or it's anything like that. It's done. It's worked. It's ready to go. So today we're going to start with what it takes to get it started and how to do all that. And then this is going to be a multi-part because it takes different steps to get the wine going. So today we're just going to go over the ingredients, what you do, how you get it ready, to know how much sugar to put in, and all along those lines. So today, to start with, I've got a couple of things ready. The main ingredient for Wiles Black Magic is blackberries. We love blackberry wine, and we grow blackberries. But my wife also likes to make blackberry pie and cobbler and things like that. So I have to share the blackberries. This year was not a good year for us for blackberries. So what we do get, and when we pick ourselves, I bag them up as we get them and freeze them. So these have been frozen, they've been thawed out. It's not going to hurt the berries. Making it with fresh berries, maybe it's better. I don't know. I don't have that kind of time. So we freeze them up, and then whenever I've got the time to do it, then we make them up. Today, we only had about what we had left in the freezer was about 8 pounds of blackberries. Normally I like to use 3 pounds of blackberries per gallon, and we're going to make a 5-gallon batch. So obviously I don't have that. But the other ingredient to Wiles Black Magic is 100% grape juice concentrate. You can buy it at the grocery store, Walmart, whatever. Normally I use the Welch's 100%. They were out of it when we went shopping. So we're going to try the Great Value brand out and see what it does. It can't be that much different. But usually I use 2 cans of that and then make up the difference with the blackberries. We're short on blackberries. So the way I've got it figured up is 1 can of the 100% concentrate is worth about 2 pounds of berries. If that's accurate, I don't know. There's probably going to be somebody on their commenting that I'm way wrong. I don't care. The wine's going to come out all right, and we're going to drink it. So that's how we do it. So today we're going to use 4 cans of the juice and 8 pounds of berries, because that's what we got. So the recipe itself calls for those. We've got the sugar, we've got the distilled water, and then all of our additives that I'm going to show you, and then the yeast. The water I've already put in the tub. You can use any kind of container you want. No, this isn't fancy. No, this probably isn't classy. But this is the biggest plastic sanitized tub that I can come up with. So if you want to make fun of me for using a Rubbermaid tub in my kitchen, making wine, I don't care. This is what it is. So the first thing you have to do with any of it is sterilize, sanitize, and everything like that. And I've lost my little container of sanitizer I was going to show you. But I do use one-step sanitizer on absolutely everything. Before you get started on any of it, Clean the counters off, clean your bowls out, anything that you're using, anything that involves the wine that's going to touch has to be cleaned, and then it has to be sanitized. So like my little green tub that I use here, it's cleaned out. Don't use bleach on anything. I've seen on there where people want to use bleach because it sterilizes everything. Do not use bleach for any reason because we're going to be drinking this. So the One Step brand no rinse sanitizer works great. It gives you the measurements, how much to put in per gallon. You can wipe everything down with it inside your tubs, rinse your bottles out, your bowls, everything like that, and then you don't have to rinse it out. So wash it. I usually use like Dawn soap and water, wash everything up, rinse that out really well, make sure everything's gone, and then run sanitizer through all of it. But that is the number one key to any wine making or any liquor making, is it has to be sanitized. Even wash your little grubbies, make sure they're clean before you start touching everything. So everything has to be clean. So I've already cleaned and sterilized the tub itself. With this recipe, which it'll be printed on there too, but with this recipe, we use 3 1/4 gallons of distilled or purified water. So you can see my water sloshing in there. I've already put it in the bucket because I figured you didn't want to stand there and watch me fill a pitcher 3 1/4 times. So you can use purified water, distilled water, whatever you want. I just use it out of the tap. We have a purifier for drinking water at our house. It works great. It's good tasting water. Just make sure it's good tasting water. You can get by with tap water, but the better quality of everything that you use, the better it's going to be. So use purified water, 3 1/4 gallons of it, and then we'll add some of our other stuff to it. So we'll go ahead and put the juice in here. And don't make a mess. Dude, your wife will get mad. So make sure you don't make a mess. Spill it. Just so you know, grape juice does stain everything. Now we're going to have to figure out exactly how much sugar we have to add to it. But the whole reason I don't add the sugar first, because used to, I just automatically added sugar to it. Because I said for a 5 gallon, and most of the recipes that you find out there, or what I see, will say, you know, it takes 10.5 pounds of sugar to make 5 gallon of blackberry wine. I don't go by that anymore because the way that we do it, we want to pick a very specific amount of specific gravity, or we want to pick the right sugar level in there to make it exactly what we want. So I'll show you in a little bit how to check that. But so we're going to put all of our fruit and our water and everything together, and then we'll find out what the specific gravity of that is, and then we can determine how much sugar to put in. The berries themselves, like I said, it's already in a bowl. I pulled them out of the bags and everything already because we do use freezer bags. What I do with it, and they make fancier berry bags and all kinds of stuff like that out there to put your berries in. I've talked to people that put the berries straight in the bucket. To me, that's a mess because it's hard to get all the skins and everything like that out. And I try to make it as easy as possible because you'll see in the end, on the last parts of the video, when we actually strain everything and make sure it's clear, you want as little of that stuff in there as possible. That's the same reason I don't put everything in my big fermenter until after it's gone through. So this will be the final one. That's why I use my handy dandy tub. Okay, so like I said with the berries, put them in a cheesecloth or a berry bag, whatever you want. Like I said, some people have berry bags. I'm going to get one of these days. I just haven't ever done it. So cheesecloth works really well. Put all your berries in a bowl, twist them up. Don't spill that juice because it will stain everything. And we just got new cabinets and countertops last year. And the old ones, they did have some berry stains on them, I'm not going to lie. So let's not do that to the new ones. So I just use a rubber band and tie that down. So now, at least the majority of all my berries will stay in there. If a couple fall out, whatever. We can strain those out, that's what it is. But take the bag of berries, put it in the tub. And then all the juice that came loose, because whenever you freeze a berry, I don't know if everybody's froze a berry before or not, but when you freeze it, you thaw it, all kinds of juice comes out. Keep that juice, because you want that. You want as much juice and flavor and everything else that you can get in there. You'll want it for later. So, once you get that in there and you've got that bag, just kind of press that, squeeze that bag around, and you'll see more in the other parts that we do, how much you're going to be sloshing that around and everything else. But just make sure it's stirred up. We got a bunch of water, got a bunch of juice, got a bunch of berries, because we want all that sugar and juice to come out of the berry itself, because it's the sugar in that berry that we're really after. So we're gonna leave that in there. Which, by the way, my ladles and all that, they've been sanitized already prior, so make sure you do sanitize those. So all that's in there. So now we got to figure out how much sugar to put in. What we're using here is a hygrometer. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can buy these. They're pretty cheap. I buy most of my stuff at Friar Tuck's. I'm not a sponsor for Friar Tuck's. If they want to sponsor me, I'm more than happy. Just shoot me an email. But I do love Friar Tuck's just for their winemaking stuff. They've got all kinds of stuff that you can buy there. All your additives come from there, the little tools and things. If you don't want to go somewhere or one's not close, buy them online. Amazon has all this stuff too. Friar Tuck's is usually cheaper, and we've got one relatively close, so we can go get it. So that hygrometer, that's going to measure the specific gravity in that liquid that we have right now. We have to know what the specific gravity is because we have to know how much alcohol we're going to have in it. This wine that we're trying to make, we're shooting for 1.100 specific gravity. It's a little stout, but it comes out with a good flavor usually, because if you get too strong of the wine, then it's kind of like that watermelon wine that's sitting back there. I just bottled it earlier tonight. It's been working for a long time, but it's about 18 to 19%, and it's got quite a bit of a kick. It tastes like tastes like watermelon, but it's got a kick. So we don't want to get too strong with it. You can play with this. I figured out that you can figure out what you like and you can change it. That's what I like with mine. So a lot of people like it weaker, some like it stronger. You do whatever you want, because what we're doing is we're going to set our specific gravity here, and then once we put the yeast in, that yeast eats away the sugar, and that's the byproduct is alcohol is what's left over. So right now we're shooting for 1.100. So before we put any sugar in it, we need to know what our specific gravity is, because those berries in that fruit and the juice have massive amounts of sugar in them already. So we've already got a head start. We just have to figure out how much sugar to add. And they sell little beakers or whatever you call that. I don't know. Again, we're not fancy here. I made mine out of a piece of PVC and a cap, and I've sterilized everything. PVC is good enough to run water through, so I think we'll be all right. So right now, we're way down there. We need a lot of sugar. We will let that float. I don't know if you can see that number, wherever that comes up at. I'm trying to hold it still. You have to let it float on its own, but right about there. We come out at 1.020. So we need a lot of sugar. So we got to start adding. Pause it for a second. Okay, so we're going to add sugar to it to try to bring that specific gravity up. I don't know just yet how much sugar to add to it. So we're just going to keep adding, and we're going to keep checking. I usually add maybe a cup to 2 cups at a time, and then stir it and recheck it, because you got to stir it, because otherwise that sugar is just going to be sitting down at the bottom. I used to always try to boil the sugar and down into water, and I figured out, I saw a couple people that they just dump it in there and stir it up. It works great. So we're going to stir it, check it. Okay, so we got our specific gravity what we're looking for, because we're wanting that 1.100. So we kept adding sugar to it. It's a long process. It takes a while. Just keep adding a little bit at a time, because if you go too much at once, then you're going to skyrocket it. It may still make wine, but it's going to be too potent, or if you do get that sugar level too high in there, then the yeast doesn't want to work. It actually coats the yeast, and it won't work anymore, which we'll see more about the yeast tomorrow. But so get it where you're looking for. Like I said, you can change that a little bit, up or down, whichever way you want. I wouldn't recommend going too much higher than that, just because it does turn into pretty potent wine. So as far as the additives that we're going to use, we've got several different ones. We're going to put some in today, and then we'll put some in tomorrow. So the first one's pectic enzyme. It increases juice yield and prevents pectin haze. I've already measured it out. Which again, there'll be measurements of everything that we're going to use printed on there, but we use 3 teaspoons of pectic enzyme. Yeast nutrient, It just helps that yeast, once we get the yeast in there, it helps the yeast work and gets it good and strong. So that we use 5 teaspoons of. Yeast Energizer, again, just helps the yeast out and keeps it going and working strong. That we're going to use 2.5 teaspoons of. Tannin balances everything out, clears, helps to clear it later on. So, and it keeps some of that boldness to the berry. Get our words out. Then we also have, which is in the same bowl, we've got our acid blend, because we do have to have some acid in there to even everything out. And then potassium metabisulfite. That is what we're going to use right now. That's one of the big things. And then the yeast I'm going to use, I just use a cheap Red Star wine yeast. There's all different kinds out there. Everybody's got their preferences. This one's usually cheap, and it seems to do just fine. So they tell me the different yeasts will make different flavors. I don't know. Play around with it, whatever you like, but I know Red Star works. That's just the Premier Rogue or whatever it is. So they make all different kinds. Use what you like. But we're not going to put the yeast in there yet. What we have to do is that potassium metabisulfite. We're going to put that in there and some of our other additives, but what that's doing is killing any kind of wild yeast. There's yeast strains in the air everywhere flying around, and in those berries and everything else. We want to control what yeast we use, and we want to control the fermentation. There's recipes out there that use wild yeast. I don't do that because you're at the draw of nature on that one. So I want to control it. I'm a control freak. I want to do it myself. So we're going to put that in there. Kills all wild yeast. That's why we can't put our yeast into it until tomorrow. So I've already got everything measured out. The potassium metabisulfite, the acid blend, we're going to go ahead and put in there. And then the wine tannin, we're going to go ahead and put in there. And the yeast energizer nutrient and pectic enzyme, we're going to wait till tomorrow. So put that in there. Stir it all up. Get it working. Now this must that you have here is so full of sugar, it is sticky as crap. So don't spill it everywhere. Don't drip it and splash it and all that. It will make everything nasty. So now that we've got everything in there, we're going to take this and we're going to cover it with a towel, and we're going to put it in a room where nobody messes with it, nobody can see it, whatever. Cover it so nothing can get into it, and we're going to leave it for a minimum of 12 hours, and then we'll get the yeast, pitch the yeast in and the other additives, and go from there. So hold on. All right, so now it's time to get our yeast ready. It's been about 24 hours since we started our must. We have everything ready. Need to wait at least 12 hours. I had to work today, so it's been about 24 hours since we got everything started. We gotta make our yeast. Like I said, I use the Red Star Premier Rogue yeast. Pretty simple, basic yeast. You can try different strands and different things and make different tastes. This is what I've always used. Seems to work well. So you can read the instructions on the back as far as how to do it. This is how I do it. You get about a quarter cup of water, and you want warm water. I think the instructions say about 95 to 100 degrees. Somewhere in there. I just use warm water out of the tap. You don't want it too hot because it'll kill the yeast, but it has to be a little bit warm to start getting it activated. So we're just going to take that yeast packet in that quarter cup of water, sprinkle it all in there, make sure it all goes in. One pack is supposed to be able to do about 5 gallons of wine is what they say. So if I get my camera to focus here, there we go. So it should be able to do 5 gallons of wine. So we put that in there, and what I always do is, because yeast feeds on sugar, that's what keeps yeast going. So I'm going to add just a touch of sugar to it, not much at all, just a little bit. Sprinkle on top, and we'll stir everything together. Make sure all of it's worked into the water there. Okay, now we're going to let that sit for about 20 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and always cover it. That way nothing can get into it, anything like that. So just cover it up, and we're going to let it sit, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes and see how it does. In the meantime, what we're going to do is all the additives that we had left over that we did not put in yesterday, I put them all in one bowl here. I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle this over the top of our must. That way it gets started, because it has the pectic enzyme, the yeast nutrient, and a couple different other ones in there that we didn't want to do yesterday. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle them in there. That way it's ready for when we put our yeast in here in about 30 minutes or so. So we'll sprinkle that and be right back. We've added all of our additives to this thing. We've got our yeast ready. So before we add the yeast to it, what we want to do is go ahead and check the specific gravity one more time and see where we're at. So just like we did yesterday, to get it to the right spot, we want to check it and see where we finally ended up, make sure all that sugar is dissolved and everything like that. So if you can see that, we're right there at that 1.100. So we're doing pretty good there. So we're right there where we want it. So what we're going to do is get that out of there. And then our yeast is all ready. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can see how it gets foamy on top. And if real close, you probably can't hear it, but you can hear it kind of bubbling and going on. So that yeast is alive, it's active, it's working. So we're going to pitch our yeast in there. All you got to do is dump her in. Make sure all of it makes it in there. And then stir it up a little bit. And then we let it do its thing. So that's it. That's how you get everything ready. That's how you get your yeast pitched in there, add all the additives, get the yeast going, everything like that. There's a lot more to do yet, so this is just the first part. So we're probably going to have about 3 videos on this altogether. So make sure you definitely check out the other ones. That way we can see, I can show you what specific gravity we're actually going to take it to be able to get your wine the way you want it and everything that we need to do, because there's a lot of work left yet to do, but it is a long process. So make sure you check out all the videos. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them down there in the comment box below. Otherwise, check out the other videos. Check out the blog on wileshvacandstuff.blogspot.com. Otherwise, please subscribe to the channel and share it as much as possible. So thank you and God bless.